All right, hey guys, Sam here. We're midday, November 22nd on a Wednesday, and I thought it was just a perfect day to go back and look at Dash. This has long been one of my favorites. It trades very technically. Algos are all over it, and we have a very interesting wave count on this that's quite tricky actually. One of the more difficult I've encountered in crypto, and you really have to be willing to do the work to go through and qualify these counts relative to what you're seeing in Elliott rule set, even guidelines, if you will. For the purposes of ending up with a primary and an alternate count. Now, that's something that I always suggest that you do. Is be prepared for an alternate per what you're seeing in the market. So this is likely. I'm going to start with this count here. I have two counts, and I'm not sure that I can favor one over the other. So rather than primary and alternate, I'm just going to call them count one and count two. They're both extremely bullish, one more bullish than the other, but it's a question of where's the next opportunity to get into the market if you're not already in. So most likely this is the count that people will typically have on because it's the easiest for your eye to spot, right? So here we had this 5-wave structure here. We got a 1-2. We got this big one here, strongest, longest wave. There's the 3. We get a little ABC. We double bottom here for the C. That was technical. We can look at this. So just, the rudimentary analysis, 2-wave, looking for the 4. You can see here we tapped the 50 once, then came down, a little front run on the 50. So algos jump on it. They front run it. They take it right to the negative 23. They take some profit, but now we're going again. We're still going higher. So we've got the other target up here. Here's the negative 618. That would be an extreme for an algo move. And it actually lines up with some fib targets and some fib swing targets. So we've got a reasonable target up here at, let's call it 650. Now, keep in mind that if indeed we are, this count plays out and is accurate, and we are finishing up, right? So if this is our 3-4, well, then we are finishing up the 5th of the 5th of the 5th. Do you see that? Right? So all 5s here, implying that we would be completing an entire impulsive structure for Dash from inception, from 0, up to here to 650. That would be a completed impulsive structure, and that would, on the larger degree, think daily here. So this would be a completed 1 wave. If that's a 1 wave, then we're looking for the 2. Highest probability for a 2 is between the 50 and the 618. So just as a minimum, right? So let's for the exercise here, and I've marked out the absolute lowest low here and some other important pivots, which we'll go through in a second. So there's our lowest low, which is that's $1.47. I think that's about as low as it went. So if I'm going to go up here to 650. Let me get right on 650. So if I'm going to complete a 5-wave structure, then I'm looking for the 2, a 50% retracement here, which, that certainly could play here. So we'd be going from 650 to 350-ish, right? So where we had this, so likely retracement would be the prior 3 to 4. So we right in here would play beautifully. This is what we're looking for. So the market's going to have to sell off pretty hard to get back down here to 350, but that's certainly, it plays. It doesn't violate any Elliott rules. It's very technical. That could well be the count that we experience. But if you're not in the market and you're looking for opportunities to get long, well, you're way too late to the party here. So you're going to be patient and you're going to wait and you're going to keep an eye on Dash. But if that's going to complete as a 5-wave, you're waiting for the 50. So you're 330, you're looking for that kind of an entry. That's if this is completing a 5-wave structure. Well, is there any other way that we could look at this? Is there any other way we could count this that would stay consistent with the Elliott rule set and give us an alternate count or a secondary count, if you will? Well, so this is where doing the work and knowing how to do the work to come in through here and qualify this wave structure and see if indeed we might have something else going on. that might create more opportunity for us rather than just sitting on our hands waiting for 340 to show up. So this is perfectly valid count. If you can, I would encourage you to go through, pause the video, try and recreate this on your own, recognizing that if this tops here and starts to turn, we'd be looking for a 3-wave structure to come down and give us our potential second wave of the largest degree. Right? So let's go look at an alternate count and see if we can make that make sense. Here's my alternate. Now, one of the things you have to do, so here I'm on a 4-hour, this is Poloniex. When you're looking at it here, you look back to all this and you think, oh, okay, well that's meaningless. Well, not so fast, right? So what you have to do is you have to scroll this back here and allow for the scaling to take effect, because back when Dash was just getting rolling, I mean, that was a massive move to get to 117. So you got to get back over here and allow the scaling to show itself, because there was plenty of trading going on back here, from its inception date, from the Genesis date to where we are now. You've had plenty of technical trading happening here. So here you can see what all I've done is mark the lowest low that I could find, which is just a few, just above 0. Right? We didn't actually trade at 0. So looking at that, now it's kind of hard to do. We know what's coming, but if you were looking back then, these are huge swings, percentage swings. So it's that you can't ignore this. Right, so you can go back here and you can look at this and say, well, if I'm looking at 0, right, and putting this in some sort of a scaled context, this is the first big swing high that I get. So likely that's my first one wave on this scale here. I get a very deep 2. Let's check it. So now that I've got my lowest low marked, let me scrunch a little bit here. I can just pull from here up to my 1 high, where I also have it marked, and take note. We go right to the 618. So that tells me that there's a good probability that I have a good one wave here, given how technically we responded here. So algos jump on it right at the 618, and up we go. Now here's the algo target, which you can see here, the negative 23.6. So from the buy here at the 618, they go right to target at the negative 23, and look at that reaction. Right? Do you think they took some profit there? Right, that's from 145 goes down to 73, 72. Okay, so given that, I can start building a structure here that bases it off of these pivots. So odds are I've got a good 1-2. And then within that, I've got to find, if that's a 1-2, I've got to find an impulsive structure, because I know that my third wave must be impulsive. And I'm going to anticipate, if I don't get impulsive right off the bat, I'm going to anticipate subdivision here to give me my third wave. Well, this gets very tricky here, because we get these wicked wicks, right? So this kind, as we saw here, this reaction here from the algos taking profit all the way back down here. That's just straight down. But we've got to be able to count it, and we've got to be able to fit it within the Elliott rule structure here. So this is what I've come up with that I think fits and works. So we get a nice clean 5-wave structure here into a 1-wave. Okay, there's our nice 1. But from there, we can't complete. We can't go 1, 2, 3. We can't get, this can't be a 4 because we're overlapping the 2. So the only way to make this work, and I think it does work, is we've got an A here. So if I put it here, so I've got an A, then a B subdividing here. You'd get subdivision within that subdivision to give you a 3-wave structure into an expanded flat, giving me a 2-wave here. If that's a 2-wave, so let me pull this off. Okay, so if I've got this right here, so if I've got a 2 in, well then I'm going to look to measure my 1 wave to my second wave. And look what happens here. Yet again, if I've got an expanded flat of A goes to the 50 to the tick, there's my B, then I come down for my C, and again, just as we did here, I go exactly to the 618. And in fact, this time we go to and through the target. It goes way through. So we hit all the extremes. Here's the negative 23, negative. We go to the negative 100 and actually wick through that. So big extreme reaction, big reaction. But this tells me, because of this pivot here and holding that 618, that I've got a 1-2 in place. Now there are additional tells. So this is an important point, and this is just, this is the work you've got to do. If I'm in a 1-2 here, I've got to have an impulsive structure. So this 1-2 gives me a 3. Here's my 4. Here's my 5. It looks to me as though we double top, because I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like we double top into a 5. Here comes my A wave. Okay, take note here. So this is the tell. So here comes an A wave. I get a 3-wave B. So again, I get, just as here, I get another expanded flat to give me my 3 and my 4. Now remember, it has to be an impulsive structure. So if this is my 3, this is my 1, I can't have the 4 overlap. I can't have it overlap, because then the whole count is wrong, because I wouldn't have an impulsive structure. So I get a 1, 2, here's my 3, my 4 comes down, and just by a few ticks does not overlap the 1. That's the tell. Right? Again, this does not happen randomly. Doesn't happen randomly. And then we've also got some other, so if I pull this off and we look for my 2 from my 3 right to the 50. Okay, do you see that? So again, yet again, algos by the 50. For us trying to get a handle on the wave count, we're trying to surf around the algo structure. So they're just working off. They just happen to be working off of these pivots. There's the 50. There's their buy. There's their target. And they take their target. They take their profit there. And in fact, we go substantially higher. We go, to and through the negative 100. So this is extreme, and in fact, almost to the negative 618. But again, this is kind of the work you need to do to get a handle on where you are in the count. Assuming you want to try and apply some Elliott wave structure to help you with timing for entry. Otherwise, you're just sitting around waiting for the 50, right? And that you may not have the resources to just continually buy 50s and allow for stops under the 65. It's a smarter way to do it. What I essentially am teaching you is how to kind of surf behind the algos with the Elliott wave structure, so that you can look for lower risk entries that are consistent with the Elliott wave rule set, that allow us to look for those low risk entries where we can we can be stopped out quickly if our count is invalidated, yet maintain all that upside that the algo targets give us. So given that we have this, so if this count is right, so there's other things we can do to check it. So if here was the clear tell that this was our 4, had to be our 4, and that this was our 1. So this count holds. Then from here, now if that's my 4, which I propose that it is, then now I'm looking to finish my 5th, and I'm looking for that subdivision. Okay, do we get it? Well, yet again, we get another tell here. Look at this. Again, this does not happen randomly. So I get a nice 5-wave into a 1. So let me take some of this off so as to not cloud up the chart. Okay, so I get a nice 1, 2, 3. Here's my 4. Here's my 5. Does that make sense? Are the fib relationships there? Well, if I pull from my 1, projected from my 4, I go a tick from the 1618, right? So a high probability target for a 5th, actually, to and through the 100, which is very common, but we're a couple of ticks from the 1618. Tells me that this count looks quite good. So I take that off, and again, you can see also the more traditional from the 2 to the 3, right? 38 to the tick, we go right to the negative 618. So the point I'm trying to make is by going through and seeing this, we know how technically it's trading. We know algos are all over it. And we know the Elliott wave structure is playing. So again, if I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, then that tells me I'm complete there. If that's complete, then I've got, remember, here's my 3, here's my 4 holding my 1. I've completed that 5-wave structure, which tells me potentially all I've done now is completed a 1-wave. Do you see how I put that all together? So if I scrunch this all the way back and we look at where we've come, here's my 1, so 1, 2, here's my 3, all of this works. Here's my 4, doesn't overlap the 1, and I go up and I complete in a 5-wave structure to complete 5 of 5 of what I proposed you could very well be just the 1 wave. Okay, if indeed that's a 1 wave, then I'm looking for a retracement of the entire thing. So I would take my fib tool, I'm going to go to my lowest low down here, I'm going to pull up to that high. That's my 1 wave. And well, we've come right down here, we get front run ahead of the 50. Interestingly, this prior 1 pivot provides that support. Prior resistance becoming the support, the algos front run it, and now we're off again. So where is their target? Well, their target from that 50 here is right here. So it gets a few shy, and then today, in this last move, we're to and through. Where's it going? Well, look at this confluence zone we have up here. If that's my 1, 2, then again, I'm looking for an impulsive structure. It's got to be impulsive because it's going to be my 3rd wave. So no reason not to anticipate that that's going to subdivide given the scale that we're on here now. So there's 1, 2. Now, of course, I'm looking for 1, 2 within my 3rd. Well, at this point, it looks like we're putting in either the 1 of the 3rd, or we could be putting in the 3rd, but I propose you more likely we're putting in the 1 of the 3rd. So if we think about where this could be going, we look at our targets, and I go back to scale. So if I'm going to go, let me take some of this off because it's just going to confuse. Okay, so you can see it. Note the pitchfork here, how we've just wicked that outside edge. But if I've got a completed 1, 2, my high probability targets, well, I know I've got to at least go 100% of the wave 1. So there's 1 projected from the 2. Okay, let's look at some of those targets. Well, you can see why I've got these up here, right? So there's 100% of the 1 wave. Qualifying this, got to at least go 100% as a 3rd wave. But nothing says it stops there, because if this is going to be a true 3rd, the higher probability target is that we go to the 1618, somewhere in that window, the 1618 to the 175. We've looked at that many times. We know that's our higher probability target for a 3rd wave relative to the 1 projected from the 2. So if we're going there, then that would imply to me that we're just putting in the 1 wave of the 3rd wave. So why does all of this matter? Because if this is our 1 wave, we're not waiting for a full retracement of the entire move. We're looking for a retracement of our 1 wave, meaning our next entry point. Because if this count ends up being the right count, which I'm inclined to think that it is, if my 1 is in, then I've got a 1, 2. I'm putting in, here's my 3, 4, 5. I'm completing a 5-wave structure here, potentially right at the 100%. Now I'm looking for, right, if it's complete, we're looking for a retracement of the entire 5-wave structure, which would take me, so I'm going to take this off since we've got those marked, just to not confuse the chart and clarify. If that's complete, if we complete this right in green, 1, 2, 3, 4, if we complete that, I'm looking for 50%. If this, let's say, just for the sake of the exercise, if this ends up being our target up here, and we get this 5th, well, now my next entry here is at 433, not 350. I'm looking for my wave 2 somewhere down here, right? And interestingly, interestingly, if that's going to be if this is going to complete a one wave and we're going to stay impulsive, I don't want to overlap my one wave of the larger degree, which happens to be right here, just under the 50. So here's your next buy zone right here, which happens to coincide with the pitchfork. Look how we've, assuming this pivot is what the market's operating from. Look how we've come back to the median line, push away from it, back to check the median line. Now we've gone to the outside edge, the 100% of the pitchfork. If we're going to work our way, so what would we be looking for if we end up topping? We're looking for something along those lines. Let me put the wave on it so you can see it. Right, you see that? So now we're looking for something along those lines. And again, we've seen a lot of this in crypto. We've seen a lot of these shallow Cs. But if it's going to be just textbook, we're looking for that. And there's our next entry, the 50 of this completed 5-wave structure, not the entire move from 0 to this absolute top here. Makes a big difference in terms of your next entry point in the market. So, that requires that's some work, that takes some experience, that takes some understanding of the Elliott rule set and tendencies and where waves typically end and retrace. So I'm not saying that's easy. This is the kind of thing we teach you. If you're a member within our members Discord, that's exactly the kind of work that we do on a daily basis. So if you want to learn how to do this, I want to encourage you to become a member, because this is the work that's required if you want to be a trader. Sorry, if you thought this was going to be easy, I got bad news for you. It's not easy. In fact, it's one of the hardest possible ways to make money. So if you're willing to do that work, I would encourage you to consider becoming a member, because we'll really work with you and teach you how to do this so that you understand it. So then you can do it on your own. Becoming a member of our Discord it shouldn't be a long-term commitment. It should be long enough so that you're comfortable doing this on your own. So you no longer need my counsel to check your wave count. You'll know it, and that's the objective. All right, so there's I've gone 21 minutes here. We could do it. Let's just quickly, since we've got a little bit of time, let's look at it against Bitcoin. It's quite different on Bitcoin. So here it is on Bitcoin. Now I'm down to the 1 hour, because we can see here we get this big impulse. So if I go back to the 4 hour, it's a different count. So we've had a top. We get a very long, steep retracement as Bitcoin went through the roll that it's been on, and then we get this massive spike. So we can comfortably, regardless of what we have going back in history, we can pretty comfortably call this some sort of a 1 after this correction. Even if if you look back in time, so here was our last high, and then we just go through this long corrective action, and we end up way down here. So from this low, I don't even know, if we go all the way back, if it's worth doing it. Let's just check for fun. If I take the lowest low I can see on the screen, and I look up to my high, well, you look interesting. So we go right to the 786. So so we look at the fibs, hold it. So here's the 38, the 23, 618 down to the 786, and then we get this big explosive move here. So regardless of what all that is, it doesn't really matter at this point. I got something happening here, and because of the impulsive nature of it, I would propose to you that that's likely a 1 wave, because we're just coming out of this long corrective action. All right, so if that's a 1 wave, let's open it up, give it some scale, the appropriate scale. If that's a 1 wave, well, we get the big spike, and then we get a shallow B, but we get a 3-wave correction. We go right to the Vegas. We're to and through the 61865 pocket, but we're not far. Vegas wave holds it. We get this deep 2, and we're well above the 786. So we're certainly in the zone that you would expect for a second wave. And then from that second, we're now expecting subdivision to give us our third. Well, of course, remember, if that's our 1-2, and we're going to go up to those likely targets for a third. Let's measure it out. So if that's a 1, then here's the 1, here's my 2. Well, here's 100%. I got to go at least to the 100%. My big upside targets are way up here. Here's my 1618. So I get a big cluster up here, the 1618, the negative 100, and the 175. So I've got targets for my third on that larger degree that would play nicely. And of course, we'd want to mark the 1 wave here as a potential high because we'd be expecting this to stay impulsive. Right, so then we'd have a 3, 4, 5 going much higher. So if we come back down, I know I'm going long today. So if we come back down and now get down to the nitty-gritty on the hourly, well, I've got some complexity here. So coming off of that, I get a 1, 2, but now I've got some tricky subdivision in here. Here, look how I'm coming to the median line. So from this pivot down here, we know if it's going to move higher, we have an 80% probability of getting back to the median line. We make it, and now we're in the process of some sort of correction here off of that. But so far, we can count out a very clear impulsive structure. And take note here. Here's how you can, again, these are the little tells. Here's our wave 1. Here's our wave 4. Bounces on it to the tick. Right? Again, it's not random. That doesn't happen randomly. So we get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our 1 wave. We get a shallow retrace into a 2, and likely we get that triangle, that AB shallow C. So if I pull that, let me take this off so as not to clutter it. So if indeed that 1 is in, and I'm looking for a 2, well, it's shallow. I get here's the 386 or the 386 between the 386 and the 50. It's lower percentage of the time that we'll do a 382, but it's still 15% of the time we can do a second. We would have preferred it down here at the 50. You can see I had the alarm at the 50 looking for an entry. Doesn't happen. Takes off. Okay, so if that's a 1, 2, well, look what we've done here. So from the 38, we've gone to and through the first algo target and gone right to the negative 618 in conjunction with hitting the median line. So likely algos are in. Right, algos love Dash for for whatever reason. It is one of the top 10 by market cap, so they like it. There's lots of volume here. So I've got a 1, 2. Well, if that's a 1, 2, what am I looking for? I'm looking for my 4. So I've got my 2 down here. Here's my 3. Where's my next entry? Well, I don't want to go beyond this wave 1 high. That's just below the 618. What I'm looking for here is the 50. So again, the alarm. Right at the 50 on the outside edge of the pitchfork. So there would be a perfect entry with upside targets here, expectation, back to the median line. There's the algo target. So where's your buy? So if you're looking to be a buyer right here, if we're just going to the first target, we don't need to ride it below the wave 1 high. So the stop here just below the 65, there's 3.5 to 1. That's on your first target. Right? If we're going to keep going up to the upper targets, there's your negative 618. Now you got 5 to 1. Right? So the idea, partial profit here. There's likely to be a reaction there as algos take profit. If we come back and get an opportunity to buy it here, if we're going to keep rolling, remember the pitchfork is giving you a sense of time. Does it come down and pop right up here, or does it meander and take its time? Then we have a higher probability that we're going up to the negative 618. We can just put some fib swing targets on it. We know that if that's our 1 wave, we can project. Well, for the sake of we may have had a shallow 4 here at the 3.8. So there's the 100% of the 1 wave. There's the 1618. So these are valid targets up here. Now you're closer to 6 to 1. If we're going to come down lower, if the opportunity has come and gone, and we're not going to get the 50, and it's only going to take the 382, which is possible. That's very common for a 4th wave. Well, then these targets, if I come down to this little pocket here and split the difference, well, there's 5 to 1. So in other words, one to be watching. I have it alarmed here because we're going to buy it at the 50 if we get an opportunity to, expecting substantially higher prices, right? Because if that's a 1, 2, I'm looking for my 3, 4, 5. Okay, does that make sense? I know I went through a lot here. I know this is, I move quickly on this. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, so it's second nature to me, which is why, we've set up the members Discord so you can learn how to do this. And it's through practice and repetition and then seeing how the market responds that you build confidence in doing this. And you're comfortable pulling the trigger. And of course, the priority is always, where am I wrong? If I'm wrong, what kind of risk reward do I have? Can I afford to take that risk? Am I going to trade the market or am I going to trade my pocketbook? It's a constant process of looking for the low risk entries where you can be out quickly and not take a knockout punch and not get hurt by any one trade. As I like to say, if you're going to get into the ring, expect to get hit. But you want to make sure you're not taking a knockout punch. You're gonna take a lot of jabs. That's the expectation is stops are just reality of trading. You're gonna get stopped out, and you're gonna get stopped out more times than you don't. You better be expecting that. Again, you get into the ring, you're going to take some jabs. You're going to get hit. Just don't take a knockout blow. Don't do something stupid like put your stop way down here. There's no reason to do it. I'd rather get stopped out 3 times with small losers. I'll take 3 jabs just so I'm there for the potential hard right cross to get up to target. Right? Don't let the market knock you out. Don't do it. There's no reason to do it. It doesn't cost you a lot to get back in the market. Take the small loser. Don't focus on the upside. Focus on the downside. Where am I wrong? Where's my count wrong? Where am I out? How much is that going to be relative to my account size? Do I want to take that much risk, or do I want to diversify into other opportunities? All right? It's not easy. It's not easy. If it was, we'd all be rich. All right, guys. I went long today. There's 31 minutes. I'll wrap it there.